funny, sitting in the brick here in our first office we were in, only 3 of us could fit and we had no internet and we had to hotwire a cable upstairs to the residence.
Run the Ethernet all the way up 2 flights of stairs.
I think one of the core memories of that office was when we somehow managed to get a multinational company on the hook and they turned up with 7 people and everyone couldn't fit in the office. And they're like, what is going on here? And we landed the client. Like, how on earth did we land the client? They literally couldn't fit in the door altogether. Like a closet.
Testament to your tap dancing skills, my friend.
But if you think about it now, it's like actually ridiculous. That company was huge. It was the head of marketing, all the people in the department. And
you invited them into a garage to step over the Ethernet cable.
Yeah, we were, and they couldn't fit in. They literally, there were people standing outside to get in to say hello. We had to move it to the cafe around the corner, which is not easy when there's 12 of us then. And we had to walk them there. Good morning.
Morning, TK.
How are you, Nigel?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good. What's the best thing you've done this week?
Best thing I've done this week, I'm pretty happy with some of the editing choices I've made in the background.
Oh, God, that's what everyone tunes in. You did a great job. Anything else that's interesting?
You managed to clap 3 times there as well.
You did your job.
No, I did my job well.
Did you?
And
we'll let the data. Wow. Okay. Now you're giving yourself plaudits. Okay, great. Good for you. Well done. Another good job. Oh, second clip. Would you like me to pat you on the head and tell you you've done a good job? You have.
How has this lasted 18 years?
Trauma. Trauma.
One word.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's unhealthy.
Well, what have you done well this week,
Sorry?
TK?
Me?
Yeah.
Nothing. Literally, we're in the midst of a office shift.
Yeah.
So it feels like one of those weeks where highly distracted, even though that you can strategically understand I won't get distracted by this, but it's been quite, for those of you'll probably see on the socials, but we're moving office. We're moving to this beautiful big old warehouse that was freezing cold in winter and hot in summer, and all the stuff that made it difficult temperature wise. But geez, it was cool looking. So
very cool.
Yeah. So,
we gave up a lot for it. Let's say.
Yeah. So we're moving into a new office, which is great in an AI precinct in here in Melbourne. So. But in my office at the moment, it's not quite done. We sort of just move before it's great, we'll move. And all the planning and all that, but just how it's worked out. So it's been very...
Yeah, everyone else is real well set up.
Yeah.
You're in a fishbowl.
Sitting there in this little fishbowl and in a temporary desk, and it's which is fine. I mean, there's no issue. We can get online and work's going, but it's just an interesting transition week. So I enjoy these transition weeks, and also it's one of those little periods. It's weird. We're actually heading off to New York in a week, and it's so we're flying in to do a podcast over in the States, which just seems ridiculous. And everyone says, "Oh, can't you use the internet?" Yes, we can use the internet, but sometimes you've got to be in rooms that are important rooms to be in. But equally, chance to go to New York. So who says no, right?
Just putting it out there. I would say yes if I was asked.
That's right. Yeah. The opening of an envelope. Yeah. So it's just been one of those really intense weeks. I think everyone can relate to that. As you're building a business, you just go through these sometimes weird weeks or months where you look around and go, do I feel like I'm in an alternate reality of what on earth is going on? There's so much going on. There's so much cool stuff. But it's been good. We've got some good feedback coming through from Backable and some of the members really starting to use the technology in an exciting way. So it's been a good week.
Hey, this is completely off topic, but I just realised we've known each other forever. I've never asked you why you actually started. You've started a lot of businesses. I've never asked you why you started them.
It's a dangerous question. I don't know if I've ever asked myself. What do you mean? Why did I start it?
What was the first business? Was it the gyms or was it the
martial arts promotions?
I've never even heard of this one.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was early on, and we were trying to. I wanted to become a promoter of martial arts tournaments and kickboxing and boxing.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about a first real business. Of course, we've all many of us have owned business, done little hustle things where you're trying to sell stuff and things, when you're younger.
I assume you've got a year 7 story.
Well, to be honest, my brother and I used to when I was 18, he was a couple of years younger. We'd be working on cars on weekend. I'd buy old cars, he would too, and we'd sort of fix them up, and we ended up selling them and then and doing things like that. So we're always working on something or doing something that was just for fun that you could make a little bit of money off, but it was never ridiculous. But yeah, I wanted to become a martial arts a promoter. At that stage and many years ago, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today around the world.
Dana White's done a lot.
Oh, yeah, but amazing, right? And obviously incredible story around the UFC and amazing, which I think he does some extraordinary, has done some extraordinary things, particularly listening to the business story on with it. But I think I was 3 or 4 months in it and was sitting at a table with one of the alleged biggest gangsters in Melbourne. I'm like, there's a side to this that probably doesn't suit my personality. I'm not these guys are a bit more serious than me. And obviously when you're dealing in the fight game and things like that, it was a very quick, if I'm going to dedicate myself to something, I'm probably not suited to just
to underbelly
the
lifestyle.
Underbelly of and in Melbourne and in the middle of nowhere essentially. But anyway, so that was a fun first up experience. And but for me, starting business is it never made sense to do anything but that. So I just never saw the logic of why would you take an equal amount of risk working somewhere else for not potentially the upside you could have running a business, time, freedom, unlimited earning potential. The issue was that was an ignorant thought early on, because you absolutely can create those same conditions working in another business. It was just me. I had an ignorance that I'd only ever seen people who were running businesses sort of had those conditions. So for me, it was never really thinking, how could I work for someone?
So were you surrounded, as growing up, were you surrounded by business owners, like your parents, friends and that?
No. I mean, parents were self-employed, but they're essentially self-employed, which was great. But no, it wasn't. It was just more observation. You look around and like, how are these people so successful? What are they doing? And I obviously cast my gaze onto people that were running companies. I found that really interesting. I think probably this is probably a reflection for many more years away, but I really admired the people who had both the freedom and ability to freedom in their life, but also their ability. They were in multiple things. Yeah. And I think the entrepreneurial side is you're interested in so many things. Business is a great way to explore them with a scoreboard of, can I make something commercial in this space, which I really like that idea. And it's an interesting, I just found it interesting.
And so that's for each consecutive one, you just found a gap in something that you were interested in and went.
I found it, or it found me. Like, you're just always looking, you never turn off. I mean, Lana always says when she laughs, you can't sit in a theatre without calculating the return on investment of each session, or you can't understand the margins on popcorn, or you go to a restaurant, you try and work out how would you optimize this, what are the things like that. So I think, I'm sure it's not unique. There's a lot of people who are out there that are fascinated by the mechanics of growing companies or how they operate. And then when you think like that, what would you do differently, or how could you do it? And then you're constantly seeing opportunity. I think early on there was an absolute ignorance of probably, maybe I don't believe this. I think you just got to immerse yourself in doing different things and not be attached to them. That's probably the key in the early stages, is try a lot of things, because you learn so much. Yeah. So the martial arts, the marketing thing was, we didn't get the marketing right. It was very difficult. This was well before social media and all that and things like that. Not that that's the be all and end all, but it was just different back then. So it was relationships and with other dojos and things like that and other comps and stuff. It was pretty full on, but you learn these things through it. So for me, it's just, once you're in it and you like it, you get addicted to that. I don't know how would you call it? The addicted to the energy of growing a company. Yeah. It's very difficult to replicate that. I found, I've only been employed 12 weeks, I think, properly in my life. So actually having, a job, in saying that, I really enjoyed it. I just knew that I would never survive in a corporate environment because, it's just, I wouldn't survive. I don't like being told what I can and can't do. Yeah. And that's not an arrogance thing. It's like I like to explore things, and my brain would sit there and concentrate for 8 hours. And I remember being there, and the way I got into this job was speaking to the CEO of a massive development company because I wanted to do property development, and I just rang and asked, "Hey, I want to become a property developer. How do you do it?" Yeah. He's like, "Why don't you come in and do essentially an apprenticeship, but I'll put you under a property developer and you can learn and see how you enjoy it." And it was a great guy I was under, and we were talking, and he was showing me things, and I was learning and I was immersing, like, wow, this is on a massive scale, one of the big development companies, and really thankful for the opportunity the CEO gave me. But I was there, you get in there at 8:30, you're out at 5, and I was seeing guys and girls there till 7:30. I'm like, what are you doing? And it was culturally the norm to not be the first to leave. Yeah. And for me, I knew I would never be there. So I'm like, good, have a good day. See ya. I'm done. Like, I'm not, because
so I can see you actually walking. I was going, whistling as you go.
Well, it just showed me that it's to build a career in that. Most of them weren't doing work, albeit now I look back a little ignorantly and go, well, chatting to your colleagues and doing things and talk is a very important part of it. Yep. But for me, priority was I'd rather be home and doing things at that stage. So it's, you find things that you enjoy doing and you try and do as much of it while you can. So business for me is that, and all of them have different nuance, all of them have different teams, all of them have different markets. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the startup part that you like about it? Because I've seen you you've grown multiple companies across different sectors, and there's a certain point where I go, that's where TK is going to start looking to find an interest somewhere else when it's starting to run properly.
Yeah, I think so. The initial concept and getting things to market and seeing if you're right or if there's a market, there's always interesting. I think I'm finding more fascination now in the more maturity of as companies go and nuance and owning a space, and particularly in the new era of technology, complete opportunity and disruption across every industry. I find it's fascinating, but also can be very distracting because there are so many opportunities, but they're not necessarily good opportunities. Yeah. You can just see the gap, but they're being filled so quickly. It's the old saying, concentrate on your own knitting. Focus on that. Have you heard that phrase?
Concentrate on your own knitting.
I would have thought your background of, growing up in the country, it's just you've got to focus on your own knitting.
That is another one of the terms that you've introduced to me. Other ones I can't say on this podcast.
No, you're
language.
Concentrate on your own knitting, Nigel.
But the way that you've kind of started, it's a very forward-facing. Like I want to create freedom. I want to be able to be the master of my own destiny. If I want to put it in big ones.
Doesn't everyone want to do that?
No. Yeah. I don't believe. I think yes that they do, but I don't know if that's the reason why a lot of people start. Like using myself as an example, when I started my first company, it was because I didn't want to be broke.
Yeah.
So I'd come from a creative community where you'd put in hours of everything. It doesn't matter how good you were, whatever it was. Not saying I was great.
Yeah.
But you could be the exact right person at the exact wrong time and be broke doing it. So I started a creative production company where I go out, win the work and get paid to do the thing that I know I'm good at.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for me trying to create freedom. It was me trying to prove that creativity could make money, if you know what I mean.
See, it's funny you say things like that, and to your experience, I'm not sure if I buy into that philosophy, because I think to the point of even if you're the right person, right time, you may not be there. Well, is the question then is why someone else who's done exactly the same is there? So what is actually the difference? Or is it the belief system of well, I thought I had everything. Why didn't the opportunity come for me? So it didn't not exist because others did it. So it's not a criticism, it's not a direct criticism, but I look at it slightly differently. I'm like, well, maybe it was your view of the world. Maybe it was sitting here. Maybe it was the microcosm of where anyone's at, because we see the same in all companies, right? Yep. It's like someone's running by all metrics, virtually the same company, which we've spoken about. Why do some feel like they've got an opportunity of a lifetime, others don't? And it's not necessarily always hard work's not the hard work's the entry, which just to get into the game, right? Then what? And the more and more I think it's very dangerous to feel like luck played a part, not because others don't get different opportunities, but as soon as you believe that you're dictated by luck, then you've lost control of or focus of what you should be doing every day. So in my question is, well, if I was being brutal, why'd you stop?
Because I'll put some context around this, because I don't completely agree. With on the principle, yes, but the industry, no. Because coming from a performance acting background, being in front, you could saying that you're the right person, wrong time. Essentially, you could give the best audition, and I've seen it repeated. You look at any creative or any performer, they could look exactly right, but the person that they want to cast opposite them, they go, there's not a match into that. They go, you're the right character, but we've chosen this person here, so we need to find someone that complements here. So it is taken out of your control in that area.
Yeah, but interestingly, I still disagree, although that's absolutely what happens. I had some friends that were models back in the day, and I remember they go to auditions and they were so brutal. Like even back then it was less woke.
Oh, well, 100%.
You're this or you're that. So it wouldn't just be it's a no.
It's still not woke now.
Because you're this, right? Yeah. And it's like brutal. And like this, I'd start fist fights, like you can be nice, like a bit of empathy, like we get the game. But if you look at it, and I look at this, well, what's world class? So if we sat back and we were independent, say we're talking about you, and you go, right, you've got Nigel, and he's going against an early Russell Crowe, same voice, Aussie / New Zealand / whatever it is, right? What did he do that's different, right? And so, but just as a thing, you're talking about an individual audition. I'm talking about a body of work from a point of view of, if you look at, I have the same conversation with art, like painters I've had before. And I remember seeing it go, I get the industry, right? But it's funny how creatives, and I love creatives because to me, it's so far outside what I am good at that it's magical. Like creative people, I actually see it as magical. Like it's so important. Like when people say, the value of creative arts, well, essentially it's the value of history of humanity. Like the creative people have documented, every major important, like there's people don't get, immerse yourself in the arts, right? But you actually sit there and go, right, if your job was, I wanted to be world class in an industry, you'd have to sit there and go, great, where is world class right now? And 100%. The answer is, why you're not there.
Yep.
And most people go, but I can't afford it yet. Well, no, that's your first problem then. You're not in the game.
Yep.
Or you're not committed to, because others, not only have they had the same attitude of I'm going to work rate and all that, but they've taken the complete leap of faith of being all in on, well, if this is my only shot, I want to make sure it's my only shot where it can happen, most likely in this. So I think it's these moments, and it's absolutely not a criticism, but I look at it slightly different. If we actually looked at it as, hey, let's look at this as a thought experiment. Let's look at a part of someone's career let's take the creative arts. Where are they not in the way of the right opportunity? Where are they not doing the work? Or where are they not immersed, where they can literally sit there and go, I did everything and it didn't work out? Because I've not met one of those people yet.
No.
And so to me, it's like, you missed out on audition. Great, but you should probably be doing 1,000 of them. And also from the audition feedback, is there anything that's controllable? So if it's controllable, have I affected it? If it's not, it's not. Have I analysed? So when you start taking a proactive way, because I think some of these world-class stars, they're very strategic. or their agents
100%.
are. Don't get me wrong. It's some of them are linked with the right.
Combination of two.
Yeah, I speak to a lot of creators here like, well, so who's doing your PR? Like, I can't afford a PR. I go, I get that's a different question.
Yeah.
But do you think getting a part in this is as much to do with your talent as it is to what you're bringing to the project? So you need to be bringing audience, interest, reputation. If you don't have it yet, yeah, that's the difficult part.
And that's
what are you
even
doing to
become
build
more
it?
prevalent now, where they're making decisions based on follower count and those kind of
Yeah,
things.
but the prevalence has come now from transparency and mediums of distribution, so social media following and all that.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was relationships with the casting agent, relationships with the movie, relationships with funding people, producers, right? We all know this. So there's all these art galleries and things. So being immersed in that, like patrons and all that, it's all a business. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone who's just brilliant at what they do is generally brilliant by the way it's perceived. And we're talking about same thing. How do you value art?
Yeah.
If I sat there and said, here's 2 blue canvases, one of them could be worth $100 million, what's the difference? And it's the same valuation. And I'm not saying they're not. What I'm saying is, how do you value creativity? And this is probably one of the things I think creative people struggle with, is actually not wanting to be valued around their creative arts, valued from an earning, but valued as in, how do you value a better actor?
Yep.
Or a better painter, because the styles can differ so much. And I understand from a casting point of view of we're looking for a look, feel, voice, tone. That makes sense, but I'm not sure if that's the defining thing of what makes a career. I think it's an element of it.
No, I think for the people that have stayed in it, it's a love of the craft. It's a love of doing it. So they would do it whether they were being paid or not, and often they're not being paid for it.
Isn't that an amazing thing that someone loves it so much they would do it whether they got paid or not?
Yeah.
A lot of people building businesses are actually the same. They're doing something for the same thing, which is, I love doing this craft, or I love building websites, or I love, this. Everyone has some form of this, I think, of love doing it. Now I've got to work out, how do I make a living off it? As you said, you start a production company from which we see most of the stars have are production companies, because you get the production credits, you get this. There's so many other things. You get projects come in, so they're actually just building a company. All these things are essentially building a company.
I think that actually a lot of part of that is they actually get control, because being the old school of coming up through acting is someone had to give you permission to be in a play, on TV, in this show. So it was always waiting for someone to go, yes, you can. So once somebody gets a production company, all of a sudden they're going, I want to do this, I can do this. I don't have to wait for anybody else's permission.
Totally agree. But it's the same process of building any sort of company, right? And, I think Jay-Z had a song about it, which is talking about the production, when the labels took, or maybe spoke about it. I remember some interesting stuff with him discussing with Warren Buffett years ago around the labels basically taking their slice of meat, because they used to take you on in this way, which was you had to pay back the production, this, and it was huge amounts. Essentially, you made nothing after the first 2 albums, and then you renegotiated past that. But essentially, unless you got past 2 albums, you were going to be a broke musician, and probably that was your shot, because if you didn't have distribution through a major label or dropped by a major label, it was different. The Spotify's didn't exist, the other channels. So it was a very different time. Now, obviously, people have cottoned on to distribution being centralized to the person, like the same way that television stations used to be the key to sports distribution. Now it's flipped. The television stations, particularly in Australia, need sport, because distribution of media is going anywhere else. We've seen some of the major American leagues have distribution through their apps, going, let's take out the whole, we'll sell some games to some of the networks, but why don't we centralize or vertically integrate our whole comms media and distribution? And it's the same in every business. And I particularly love, as I said, the creative industries, because it's rife for thinking creatively. Even one of our partners in a business is a musician, and he talks about these amazing musicians that go to festivals, and they've been doing it for 20, 25 years and still struggle to pay to get to there. And it's heartbreaking, because there's some commercial thinking and support that can be done. And because there's so much money in the industry, it's not filtering down at all, right? And nor it's a free market, but there's opportunities, and I think that's what this new world sort of technology shifts is going to do, is going to be able to filter more of that, hopefully down to people that are coming up to make those processes a little easier. You're describing, what you went through, similar like pro golfers. So you look at it and go, wow, look at all these pro golfers, and you watch Netflix and you watch Full Swing and go, wow, they all get on their jets, fly into a tournament, fly out, or fly across, a couple of hours to play at a course before a tournament. And you sit there and go, wow, this is just everyone there. But you don't see the thousands of golfers that are hand-to-mouth sharing rooms, going to tournament on the subfield, trying to make it today. You're only seeing the pros at a pro level, and it looks all glamorous. But actually the people who don't make it, the pros that are at driving ranges that are still grinding it out, it's in every industry until you have that breakthrough financial moment. It's everything, right?
Yeah, and even then, like, you're judging, you're going, oh, they've got this beautiful, like, they've got all of this, like, you look at actors, pro golfers, whatnot, they're the top 1%. They're still paying, like, they went through the same process as everyone else. They went through working for free for years. So they go, you're being overpaid here. You go, well, no, aren't you just being backpaid for the work that you did and the stuff that you earned?
I think so. And it's more around understanding the game we're all playing, and creative being one, professional sports being another. But there's such a tiny percent that get to that elite level and that earning capacity. So we see it because it's prominent and it's glamorized, and it's obviously because that's the non-norm that happened versus everything going there. But it's the same in building a company, the breakthrough moments, the first 10 clients, the first 20, the first whatever it is. There's a rhythm in all aspects of building something that you've actually got to, I guess, be brave to push through it or go to the next step, because a lot of people don't want to. That's not their ambition anyway. Yep. So there's a lot of artists that couldn't care less whether they're in a gallery, or actors that would never do a movie.
Yeah,
because they actually love the theatre, and they
are stage actors. That's what they love to do. They're voice actors, whatever it is.
So the judgment's not around how much you earn, because also when you're at that elite level, you've become a centralised marketing machine. You got PR people, you got agents, you got these, like, you're a media company on top of the work you're doing outside of that. But that's every phase of a business. If we bring it back into, I own a small company, what am I doing? What is the phase you're in? You're essentially not the work for free aspect you're talking about, but there's an element of the grunt work while you're learning your craft and working out where you want to take your craft.
Yeah.
So some people don't want to build a big company. And they're, to me, some of the luckiest people in the world, because they actually sit there and they know what they want in life, so it makes it easier to focus. Now we just got to get the mechanics that delivers that.
Yeah.
When you have ambition to grow a huge company or be a global player, it's a completely different game. Some of the things you have to invest in don't pay off for years. So when you talk about an actor getting paid millions of dollars per movie, but they went through a decade of no money, living on couches and all that, you sit back and go, well, the justification, are they getting paid, or are they getting paid proportion to the risk they took?
Yeah.
People would argue medical companies do the same. Well, why can't you sell me an aspirin or some medicine for 5 cents a pill that it makes, because it cost $250 million to get the science ready to get it to that point. So there's got to be a payback somewhere. And I don't want to get into ethical conversations, but that's the interesting thing that we all have to think about in terms of where we are in our stage of business. And I think clarity in your ambition, because most people don't fall into a big business. Their ambition's still there in how they see growth. And even if they say, oh, we just, we kept growing and growing, it's not necessarily true. You had the ambition to do it.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of the tech founders, and it's a really nice media story. Oh, we never really had the ambition to grow such a big company. We go, but you were looking at VCs for funding to accelerate, so you obviously didn't want to grow a small company, or you would just have done it. So, it's just the behaviours essentially dictate the ambition, but the clarity of ambition is, I think, the key to that. Because take your creative example. if your ambition really was to be a Hollywood actor, the first step would, no, I know yours won't, but just as a general.
Oh, no, it was in vague terms. Like, that's the reason I stopped.
Yeah, right.
Because I went, like, I realized that, and I was lucky, I had a well-known comedian at one point just sit me down and he went, look, mate, if you can think of anything you would like to do half as much as you love to do this, go and do that and be happy. And that really hit me because I just went, oh, I don't like the work of this enough to do it for free forever.
Yeah.
It was more because I was young and dumb at that time. Now I'm just old and dumb.
Yeah.
But that conversation kind of led to me going, I don't know if I want to be a stand-up or an actor. I think I was trying to be famous, and that was the vehicle that I could see.
Yeah, right.
And then I went, well, I don't want that. And one, I wasn't good enough, being completely honest, and two, I didn't have the drive to do it for free forever. So I went, well, I actually like this. I was starting to get into fitness at the time, and then transferred that into a different career path there.
So what was the basis of that conversation then? Why, even now when you said, I don't have the love, it was his point, you need to love it enough to do it for nothing?
Yeah, he was one of...
Is that good advice? In looking back, albeit...
For me, it was the perfect piece of advice at that time, because I did it for 10, 12 years. And he was one of the first people I met doing a festival, and I was sharing a couch with him in my first year.
Yeah.
12 years later, we were still sharing the same couch.
Yeah.
And the conversation being around and going, like, I was just asking him going, why do you, everyone says, he was the comics comic.
Yeah.
Every comic went, he should be everywhere in the world. He's the best in Melbourne at that time. And Melbourne's the hub of comedy in Australia. And I was just sitting there going, why do you still do this? Like, you've not progressed from where, like, his material had and everything like that, because you haven't had the wins that you should have had and those kind of things. And he just went, like, his whole thing was, this is the only thing, when I wake up, that's all I think about, is crafting jokes, is about getting in the community, about coming to these festivals and meeting the fans.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find those stories interesting because the question, and I don't even know who you're talking about from a point of view, but it's probably aligned to what you love about your craft, right? Some people love making things, not necessarily selling their things. So someone who loves being a comic, it's like you've got a love of the craft and entertaining and the connection that gives you, maybe not the love of the business of showbiz, because if you loved it and you're still in 12 years having similar conversations, there's nothing wrong with that, because he's, probably to his advice, I actually love what I'm doing. This is who I am. Like, high five, power to you, unless you're not happy with that place. And you go, well, where have we progressed? We meet business owners all the time that really feel they could be a better and bigger business, not necessarily bigger means better, but have ambitions to grow a bigger, they want to expand what they do. They love it. They want the challenge of that. But actually none of their actions align to that vision. When you ask what's the vision, it's still blurry. Second thing is, where's the investment towards that vision? And what have you changed that doesn't serve you now, because you'll stay at the same size? So what are you doing differently that'll affect 3 years from now? And this is the point of us, we're always rabbiting on about having clarity in your strategic plan. You must be clear on where you're heading, so when you are offline that you can course correct quickly or adjust the vision because you see something bigger, or you're more aligned to the experience of going for your vision is not necessarily what you want, or it is. Most people actually don't have that. Yeah. So looking at that person, if you had to manage him from an independent now with the life experience since that point, what would you have done differently for him in observation that you think he could have done to be world-class if that was his goal? What was he not doing in your mind from this point of view now? It's now. Yeah. It's a very easy question because it's a very different world we live in at the moment. I would say that he, like you said, he hadn't put himself in the way of opportunity. He was the best comic in Melbourne, possibly the best comic in Australia. Yep.
The most you can do in Australia is 3-4 shows a week,
Yeah.
5 to 10 minute spots, maybe do your 20s and whatnot. Why, if you are that good, go to New York.
Yeah.
In New York, you can do 5-6 shows a night,
Yeah.
7 nights a week.
And that's the standard of world class, right? Because you're 5 times progressing.
Yeah.
From feedback.
In a single night, you get the
A week.
feedback and perform in one night.
Yeah.
You get a full week
Yeah, totally.
of completely different audiences.
But equally, you're close then to other states, Europe. Like you can get audience feedback from diversity that expands, I assume, like the creative process.
Yeah. Well, there's a friend of mine here who he's been radio, TV. He's owned the ABC in the comedy space for years. He'd been going for 15 years, and he was literally posters everywhere. You saw him on TV in Australia. He went over to New York and went to the Comedy Cellar in New York, the home of comedy. He had to, because even though he was a name here, no one knew who he was. He went there on an open mic night and stood in a designated area and waited to see if his name would be called to get a 5-minute spot at 2:00 in the morning there.
But and what should happen?
Yeah.
Because and I don't totally agree with everything, because I think there's been people here who have done exceptionally well financially through comedy and stuff. We've seen
100%.
But there's this underbelly, and that's probably like the early days of musicians going through what it used to be like in the old school, how we used to have to go through and play and at different at spots, and now it's very much changed in terms of the approach to building your audience and your following and people listening to music. It still comes back to, what do I want to be? So if you're someone who's really great at your craft and loves what you do and loves the local notoriety, there's nothing against it. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can find a way. And we've seen
make
stories,
a great life from it.
Yeah, particularly now where it's even less. But to take the leap to commit to that is massive for some people, especially if you've got friends and family that you like being here. But if the dream is bigger than that, to take a shot to see where you go, I mean, you'd be on the first plane you can out here, right? And you just sit there. But also there's an ignorance of not really knowing, if you've never been exposed to that. And that's the sort of excitement of travel and have a more worldly view. It's not about being in New York. There are so many other circuits around in those times, but it takes a lot of boldness to make decisions that others aren't, to follow your craft to the depth of its origin, because it's the old big fish in a small pond. And we're not knocking Australia. Like we've got some amazing things here and support networks and compared to that. But if you're following an ambition to be world class, you essentially got to be in the arena of world class.
Yeah, I think, and remember, this was 20 years ago and whatnot. So, and it may sound, it ages me for one thing, but the awareness of the opportunities wasn't there as much as it's in your face now. So before it was, oh no, New York is where they do a bunch of comedy. There's no way that I'd know unless I met a comic from there, like what it actually
and the
meant.
festivals weren't touring the same way. I mean, there were, but they were still boutique. It was not, I want to say fringe, but they weren't as well commercialized as they are now.
Yeah, but now we've got an awareness of what the world is doing, not just what our little world is doing.
But also, this is interesting because if we go back to business principles, we're talking about product market fit.
Yep.
So a great comic, my assumption is there's some very funny people, but the actual difference between a great comic and a brilliant comic is essentially dictated by commercial success is dictated relatively to the audience. So it doesn't mean you're so clever in crafting your jokes. It's more how you, from a commercialization, how do you appeal to a large section of audience, right? And so moving an Australian or a European, and we've seen it here, there's some comics that are, I guess, okay over there. They come to Australia and they resonate with their comedy here. The Australian go over there, you become a new voice or a different style because your advantage is actually being isolated from what everyone else is doing. So you're actually bringing a newness and crispness. It's not just about being in a larger market. Is you may resonate much better in the middle of Scandinavia.
Yep.
I met a guy the other day. Oh my God, this just jogged my memory, right? A young guy. And he wasn't a musician, and he did a song, and it went viral in Scandinavia, and he's living off the royalties of it. Never heard of him, never heard of that. It was a YouTube thing, and it just blew my mind that he was making great money, that he was viral there. He's not even a musician. He did a song. He dabbles with it, don't get me wrong. It wasn't hopeless, but it was just something that went off. Nobody here's heard of him. And I had to do some research, like, this can't be true. And I was like, sure enough. And it's that whole thing of, it may be your market, right product, wrong market, right product. Like, that's the advantage of exporting your wares. You don't actually know if you don't need to change anything. You're actually just in the wrong market.
So that's a variable I hadn't really considered. How do you translate that into the businesses that
product market fit? That's why you test messaging. That's why you test product. That's why you test pricing. That's why you test models. Like, we were speaking to one of our partners the other day, talking about his model. And he was saying, well, they had this model for their business and it really wasn't resonating. The speed of acquisition for customer was way too slow.
Yeah.
Then they changed the model, which made it, you'd have to be brainless not to do it, which is, we will do this for free and give you any benefit. That's the pitch. Who says no to that? Yeah. Some people still do say no because it comes into the too good to be true.
Yeah.
But that's actually the testing of the model. And this is the thing that with creativity, it is, I can't sit here and go, our product's good. Be off with your product. Come back with bags full of gold. Like, do your job, product. There's an element of, what are we learning? What are we testing? Why is it resonating there? Why is it resonating with this type of audience in this? Is it the messaging or the product or the delivery or the behaviors? So that's the enjoyment of going into depth of understanding how people are going back. So from a comedian, you'd know better than me, Nigel. You just got this great joke and it bombs everywhere but your local community.
Yep.
Is it a great joke? Yes. But it may not have the universal appeal that's going to create that. So it's the essence of what was funny about it, then crafting, learning from understanding how people react is probably the game, right?
Yeah, it's learning how different audiences react. So some jokes were pub audience jokes. You take it from here, you put it into a theatre crowd and it will bomb because there's no locality to it, there's no space, there's too much air to breathe on it, or it's too localised.
We've seen the viral clips of, musicians playing in subways that the night before people were, paying $700 a ticket to hear them, and they go in a subway and people still love the music, but it doesn't have the same value. Yeah. And when you're getting back to valuing, I find creative people who don't see themselves as a business or the attitude of a business difficult. And it's not because we need to, if that's their goal, by the way, sorry. But when the conversation is, you can't make money from the creative arts, you can't make money in anything unless you've got this push-pull learning and evolution of, that's one of my objectives. Because the essence of I can't make money from the arts is, is the purity of doing the art form, or is the commercialization of your art form? It's not a judgment. It's just a clarity on, no, I want to do it and make money. Great. We're all tempering that. I wouldn't want to adjust our product. Like, if I didn't have to care how people used it, Backable would be very different. Probably far more aggressive.
I would bank on that.
I'm having trouble with my business. Sounds like a you problem. No, I'm teasing.
And the app deletes itself off the phone.
I'm off this phone. No, if you're going to behave like a loser, no, I'm just. But exactly.
But I think now I completely agree with your statement. I believe there is no in today's environment, I don't think there is an excuse not to be able to monetize your creativity in some way with today's technology.
I agree, but I also don't think it was different back then. I think the
power shift has changed.
No, but I totally agree. But I think the understanding, the exposure to that, a lot of people did it and got the world view. There are some very localized people go, if you've, say, I'll give you an example because I love the comedy one.
Yeah.
Imagine, or let's say a musician, our friend Sean, who's a musician, and you want to be a musician, and you want to be in festivals, and you've never been to Glastonbury.
Yeah.
or if you're a comedian and you've never actually gone to Edinburgh, because your attitude is, I'll only go there when I'm on stage, versus I actually don't even understand the game I'm in.
100%.
And it's not a criticism. Like, I feel the same thing. It's like, as we spoke about, we're off to New York next week. Woe is me, but to do a podcast now. The logic doesn't make any sense. As much as take the cost out, because it's expensive to fly from Australia, and it's not the expense of the actual travel. It's the expense of, it's going to take a week and probably half a week of jet lag.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for everyone in the comments telling me how to get over jet lag. I get melatonin and do all that. Thank you. But the point is, it's still a very big interruption. And by all means, we know we could do a Zoom. Okay, we get it. We've done a Zoom before. But sometimes you've got to be in the right environments for where you want to take your business. So where we're going to do the podcast, we know the guys there that's an environment worth being there, the same way you would turn up to a comedy festival or thing, because perhaps we need a worldly view. And I think we've got a pretty worldly view. I mean, lucky enough, we've done a bit of travel this year, but in terms of for the tech business. But sometimes it's good to be immersed in what's going on in different environments, because my fear, with all respect to your friend, because I don't know his goals. Our goals is to grow a global company. If you're not in the hubs of influence as they're happening, you can't Zoom that energy.
No.
And this is the thing. You've got to take those opportunities when they're there to be immersed in where everything's happening.
I think it's probably particularly important for us in Australia to actually see how other countries or businesses, how they operate. Because my first visit to America...
Every country, Nigel. We just happen to be here.
Sorry. No, okay. I get that. Sorry, taking yourself out of your own environment and seeing... But the pace is completely different and expectations are completely different. And so when I visited London, Dubai, America, they approach it in such a different way that I was blind to, because my only comparison was the businesses around me in my locality. And I go, if you're talking about being world class, you go, well, the aim was to be as good as the best person I know in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Or best person I know in Australia. And then you jump across to overseas and you go, oh, they'd be a small player here. Like, they're operating at a different level.
But I think even when you look at that, there's probably an element of judgment of would they or wouldn't they is almost an irrelevant part, right? Because it's probably a judgment on whether I think their craft or product or service would resonate in a new environment. The feeling, this is around education, travel, and all that, is how do I sharpen my own ideas on where I'm at myself in my business and where we want to go? Because there's a lot you can now do where you don't have to move from in front of a computer, but it's the connections, it's the things you do, it's the conversations you have, it's the interests, it's the holistic nature of being in immersion in somewhere different to your local environment that's important. It's not a necessity at certain stage. I'm not saying everyone there has got to start up business now, go and start to travel, and you all need to be there, but the awareness and understanding and energy makes a difference. Like, particularly, we were surprised. We'd, been through Dubai and some places in the Middle East. They do business completely differently to when you're in India, or then, you go to America, and, people always, we always talk, because the energy of American business is so unique. Like, the American...
It's unapologetic.
Unapologetic, and just, it's an amazing thing, which is something we like, albeit, it's just, we're like every country. We've all got different challenges we need to work through, and that's probably saying it lightly. Equally, Australia. No, I was about to say we've got our own challenges right now, but it's and have for 200 years, but that's a different conversation. And we're still a young country, which is no excuse. But this idea of, you're sitting out there and you go, I'm running a business, and I listen to podcasts, I watch things, I understand my industry. Do you really understand it? And what is your next leap of faith to have a deeper understanding and feeling in your business? And most people don't have that. I had a business partner years ago, and he had in his prior business, he'd purchased a business, and he'd never been in that type of business before. It was his first. It was entrepreneurship by acquisition. He bought a company coming out of a corporate job and wanted to grow that company. So he did a lot of research on the type of company, the way he wanted to operate, a type of business, and found one, and eventually bought it. But he actually then he got into it. And he's like, well, how's the best way to run this business? So he just looked around and said, who's the best I can find in the world of the type of company where I am now, where I want to take it? So he looked at competitors internationally of who'd had a similar journey and where he wanted to be. And he found one of them, and he called them. Middle of the night, he weighed up, he called them and said, this is who I am, this is what I've done. I'm really interested in this is what I'm trying to do. I'm new to the whole business. I don't understand it. I really admire what you've built. They said, why don't you come over and spend a week with us? So he got on a plane, and the guy, and this business was, I think, 10 times as big, took him through for a week with him. Let me show you how we operate, why we do these things, what's the decisions and all this. Like,
that's awesome.
What a thing. Yeah. And so he got an education on how to build that type of business and every reason they'd made decisions. So he got to rather than make them himself and take the 25 years that they'd taken to get there, he got to the same place in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And not only that, they became strategic partners when stuff was on this side of the world. They go, you should meet this person. Do you know anyone there? So his big customers, do you know anyone in Australasia? Yeah, this guy. And so he built this business based on a phone call. If you just think about that as a concept, have I even spoken to the person that's done what I want? If not, why not? Well, what if they don't pick up the phone? What if I get rejected? That's the difference in these breakthrough companies. It's that one little thing that someone's prepared to do without being embarrassed about what if it doesn't work? What if they reject me? What if all this? These small moments that could take... He literally got given 25 years of experience, made a new friend, and a new lead funnel that catapulted him up levels of credibility he didn't have to earn in his own market because he knew he could get and rely on this as a person, a supplier, as a whole lot of other things from a single phone call. And then you sit back and go, how many phone calls have I made this week that are aligned to that?
Yeah.
Because if I haven't, actually am I playing the game or am I still a spectator and the game's being played around me? And I think this is a really important part of those conversations is you don't have to change who you are to make money in any endeavor, but you certainly should be doing the things that are pure logic and make sense, because even just the act of doing those things, regardless of whether you get integrated or rejected, that is a differentiator when you're trying to play it at a certain level. And I think that's the exciting part. Stories like that from business partners, for me, were majorly inspiring. Like, that's so logical. Who haven't I called?
But there's such a gap between like that. Once you go make that phone call, someone picks up, and the generosity from the other end. They're not seeing a competitor.
Well, Nigel, here's the question. If someone rang you, would you?
100%.
That's generally what humans do.
Yeah.
Do you know what? They're flattered that someone took an interest in their life. And they want, because when you ask people what was the most fulfilling part about growing your company, the ability to help someone else out. Because once your cup's full, you want to share it because you see there's unlimited opportunities around.
Yeah.
So you're not a competitor anymore. And you know the people who generally reject you is there's another reason, it's got nothing to do with you. And so that's the difference is if you actually worked out, if someone called me, would I give them my time? You go, yes. Why wouldn't you give someone else the same courtesy to extend them an opportunity? But they don't. And people will listen to this now and go, who did I call? Like, I challenge people, like, hit me up. Tell me who you rang out of the blue.
Yeah.
Give me your best rejection story. The problem is I know there won't be. I'll know that, oh my God, I just met the nicest person. I did this because it always happens. But to actually think about that, hear that, and then the step to actually do it is very difficult.
Yeah.
Mentally very difficult for some. I'm not worthy. I don't know how to do it. What if I'm embarrassed? Blah, blah, blah. And that's fine, except for the reason that you could wake up in 15 years and go, I've never made the call.
Yeah.
And you think it was luck.
Yeah. Is it a little bit embarrassment worth getting everything you want?
Yeah, even if you class that as embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like or is that the way things work, which is if you generally think you're a good person, you're only ever going to run into people like that when you need to.
Yeah.
But the fact you don't look for them, and most people go, oh, they just got lucky. This guy didn't get lucky. He literally stepped it out and go, who would be the best person in the world I could speak to so I can get some learning if they'd be open to it? And didn't do it in an arrogant way, spoke, did it. And then most people go the other way. They just set themselves up for failure. They try and bring the biggest star in the world and go, why won't you give me your time? It's not how it works.
Yeah, you haven't earned that.
Yeah, it's not even how it is. You can try and that's fine, but actually are you looking to set yourself up for failure? Because I know this guy, if he didn't get on to this person, he would have called the next best.
Yeah.
And then the next best. And then the next best. And he would have found someone and the story would have ended up exactly the same. And that's off a phone call. Imagine what most people are doing every single week. It has nothing to do with alignment of changing the whole trajectory of your entire life.
Well, as usual, Tico, you've put me into a spiral that's I've got some phone calls to make this afternoon, I believe.
Look forward to hearing about it at our next conversation. Nigel, see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye.